Hello and welcome to Let's Get the Skinny. Today on the show, I have a super special guest. Susan Bratton is on the
Mhm.
show. Susan, thank you so much for joining.
I'm here. I'm here, Kiki.
Here with the beautiful
Happy to
background.
be so.
And when the beautiful background, if you're watching on YouTube, Susan is just looking super gorgeous, her skin
Oh.
dewy, her cheekbones high, and we are going to get into it. We're going to get the skinny. Susan
Mm.
is a intimacy expert to literally millions. She is a champion and advocate for all who desire passionate relationships. And she seriously knows what she's doing. This is not her first rodeo. She has her own line of libido botanicals and blood flow supplements, sexual energy bars, and sensuous body butters to enhance your lovemaking. Plus, she's written over 30 books on the topic. And today, I wanted to speak on the topics that I believe will be the most relevant to my audience of young-ish women in their 20s and their 30s who are both in and out of relationships. So first, I wanted to ask you, or kind of get your take on the dating and the relationship kind of landscape of today versus maybe 10 or 20 years ago. What has changed in your opinion?
You know what I think is the most interesting change? Most people will talk about, too much variety, too many options. We're on social media too much, all this. I honestly think it's two things. Number one, what I hear from so many women across all ages is this study that just came out about how women are more progressive and liberal and men are more conservative, and they just don't have a good values match. Women can't find men who are progressive enough for them. And the second thing that I hear a lot from like my boss babes and girl groups and the women I hang out with, and I hang out with a lot of women right now who are like 38 to 50, but really more like 38 to 45. That's kind of the cluster of my babes. And what they're looking for, how they would say it is, I need to find men who are doing the work, working on themselves, dealing with their own core wounds, their traumas, their mommy and daddy issues, their porn addictions, their lack of empowerment, all their own bullshit.
Yeah,
That's what I hear. And
yeah.
so for a lot of women who are, single and want to be dating, I often say to them, go where people are healthy, where they're doing philanthropy, like they have enough resources to think about other people, and they're doing the work, whatever that work might be that's also of interest to you. And that could be anything from, you know, taking journeys with shamans to walking on fire with Tony Robbins to learning more about trauma healing or any number of modalities. And there you will find people who are generally in a personal growth mindset who want to move toward a more conscious, connected, positive world. I think that's a good, start at least for what I think is going on.
Totally. I love that. And it's interesting. I went through a phase when I was on TikTok and there was all this about, feminine energy and like where to meet good quality men. And to be honest, I watched some of the videos that were like where to meet like rich men. And it was always just like, go to what is it? I don't even know what it's called, but before you go into a plane, what is it? The lounge, right? And there
Yeah.
would just be all these tips of like, oh, you need to go where like the rich men hang out, or and it all felt kind of like, oh, I don't know, it feels gross. But you saying like, oh, actually go where people are
Resourcing themselves and others is what I would
exactly.
say. You
Yeah.
know what's also interesting? I've been doing this is my second career and I'm 62. And when I was 42, I had a massive sexual awakening. I had always wanted to have good sex, but it had been fleeting
Yeah.
for me.
Yeah.
And I really took my sexuality into my own hands in my 40s and then realized how the only thing standing between you and having this incredible sex that I'm having right now is learning those skills. And that's what can really transform very mediocre exchanges, what I call friction, into connection. And so I've been doing this for a couple decades, and I've been doing a lot of longitudinal surveys, decades worth of the same sexual attitudes and things like that. And what women tell me that they want, and this is another thing that I've been seeing a lot of data on recently, and that is that men think that women want them to be rich and successful. But what we actually want is for them to be kind and loving. Because we have come into our own, I wouldn't say equality yet. I still think we're coming from behind. We're making up, for all, millennia of being owned and being pushed down and controlled and all of those kinds of things. But we are getting job parity. More women than men go to college now. We are advancing. And so we don't need men to take care of us. We want to be with men who want to be with us. And it was funny because I read that survey about how what women want are kind men. And I got up this morning and my husband was standing in the kitchen making his coffee. And I said, I had read this. He was still sleeping when I woke up. So I just stay quiet when it's like that for him so he can get some extra sleep. And so I was scrolling threads and I saw that survey or that data about how what women want is a kind man. And I said to him, hey, do you remember the 5 reasons that I married you? And he goes, no, I don't remember those. And I said, number 1, you were kind. Number 2, you were ambitious and you liked my ambition.
Yeah.
Because every other guy I'd ever been with wanted to control my ambition and didn't. My husband has been the wind beneath my wings for 32 years now. So I like that. The third thing I liked about him was, what was the thing? It was kindness, ambition, intelligence. He's very, 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 very smart. And I like that. I'm a sapiosexual. He had a big dick. And I like that because I'm almost 6 feet tall and I have a giant yoni and it needs a big one. A little one, I'm all like, are you in? Like, I never want to say, are you in yet? Like, I have to say it's one of my priorities.
Yeah.
And I liked his last name because I had a shitty maiden name. My maiden name was Susan Shock. And it was too like hard and like shock. And it was too, aggressive because I'm already very leader, CEO of 2 companies, aggressive. I have a lot of masculine tendencies that I like about myself. And so his last name is Bratton. That's my name, Susan Bratton. And I really liked, it sounded good to me, Susan Stafford Bratton. I like that. So it was like all these random things, but I reminded him about it this morning. But what's interesting is that when my husband and I, about 12 years into our marriage, we hit this impasse where we almost got divorced because I didn't want to have sex with him anymore. And the reason I didn't was that it just wasn't living up to my expectations. It was like I'd rather not than have. And I'd been having kind of mediocre sex with him. Maybe it lasted 4 months where it was good or so, but then it was just like, oh God, more of this. I'm not even having an orgasm. We didn't know what we didn't know.
Yeah.
And so that's when we decided to do something about it and learn about sex. And it like immediately reignited our relationship. And once we got through that, we've gotten through many other really shitty things together. And we just have this belief that we can weather anything and we're in it forever. But one of the keys to that was something that I later wrote one of those many books about called Relationship Values. It's called Relationship Magic. It's at myrelationshipmagic.com. It's a little workbook. And this is a really, like, I'll stop talking so you can get a word in edgewise, but this is like very, very important when you're trying to figure out what kind of a partner you want. Because those 5 things, like a big dick, ambition, they were all really good things. They actually worked out very well for me to this day. Those were good reasons to choose. But we ran into trouble because they weren't actually my relationship values. And what's interesting about your relationship values, I call it playing, like using the platinum rule instead of the golden rule. The golden rule is do unto others as you'd have them do unto you. Treat your partner the way you want to be treated. That actually doesn't work, especially when you're in a male-female pair bond, because they walk the world feeling safe. We walk the world feeling like prey, right? We've been oppressed. They've been given all the advantages. Like there's just so many. They're always horny and they have spontaneous desire. We have responsive desire. Like there's so many fundamental, general big bell curve differences between the masculine and feminine, penis owning testosterone dominant versus vulva owning estrogen dominant human being. And so I wrote this book, and it's really what's called a values elicitation process. And I'm going to send it to you. What it does is it helps you understand what it is that you need out of a relationship and what your partner needs. And so when you're dating and you really are clear about what it is, the feelings you want to feel and the experiences you want to have to be in a relationship. And one of the questions in coming up with your values is, would I be in a relationship if I couldn't have this? And it's very, very interesting to look at relationships you've had in the past and be like, what was it I liked about being with that person? What was it I hated being with that person? And that begins to get to your top relationship values. So for example, mine are number one, security. I had a very insecure childhood, and I have always been able to take care of myself, but I don't want to take care of myself. I want to be in a partnership with someone who's got their eye on me, is watching over me, is supporting me, is the wind beneath my wings, keeps the car in good shape, pays the health insurance. I don't mind making money. I just want someone who really pays attention to those things. And then my number two is freedom, because I want you to totally take care of me and let me do whatever the heck I want all the time. And my husband does that. And then my next is honesty. I literally don't even hang out with people who aren't just completely honest about everything with themselves and their friends and their family, because I hate walking on eggshells, sugarcoating, withholding, all the coping mechanisms that we've developed in our society, because we basically lie all the time about everything.
Yeah.
And so I really like honesty. And then for me, variety, which includes passionate variety. I like to do a lot of things, which is why I wrote the Sex Life Bucket List with 48 erotic play dates, because I want to do different shit every single time I have sex. I like to constantly have new experiences. And so I think that when you hear mine, they're not yours, but it begins to make you think, oh, I wonder what mine are. And this could be really powerful for me for not only understanding myself, but communicating my needs so that I can have the kind of relationship that I want. Because most partners are just doing to you what they want for themselves, because you don't tell them explicitly, here's what I need.
Yeah. And first of all, I want yours. Those four sound perfect to me. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. You're done. I don't even need to do mine. But I really love how you talk about, specifically in the first two, in a way, they could come off as contradictory. And that's sometimes where I struggle, because I feel like there's this whole new reemergence of get into your feminine, let him pay, be a woman, blah, blah, stop boss babing it all the time, right? And step into your feminine. But then at the same time, I love that you're saying, okay, I want security, but then I also want freedom. And I'll be honest with you, sometimes I see those two as almost two very separate, almost contradictory things. Because you think of the man that will take care of you and pay for things and make sure. And
then he'll smother you and control you.
Yeah.
Right? No, thank you, Daddy. Yeah. I will take care of myself in the safety of your arms.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that subtle distinction, because it's so powerful. What's your thought on this sort of feminine, masculine. You mentioned that, you are comfortable with your kind of
Yeah.
more masculine qualities as it relates
Yeah.
to, your profession and all of that jazz. I feel like that's something that, especially as women, and
Mhm.
I definitely get into it too much. Sometimes I feel like I'm operating too much in my masculine, especially being a business owner. And I feel like that's sometimes what, for a lot of women, almost either pushes men away or gets in the way of a good sex life, because it's like we're kind of always trying to be a man, or we're just burnt out. So what is your thought on,
Mhm.
is it just a matter of like, okay, you really need to surrender into your feminine? Because I'm more so hearing from you, it's more about like, just be really true with who you are, and it's unique to you, regardless of your, feminine or not.
Yeah, that's a good, fantastic question. And I want to tell you a funny little story about this morning that's going to lead into my recommendation for how to manage that. So I read a lot of sex studies, clinical studies and things, just to see, like I learn a lot from them about all kinds of things. One of the things I've been working on a lot is orgasmic cross training, showing women how to activate all of the areas of their vulva and vagina, all their clitoral, urethral, and perineal erectile tissue structures, their breasts, their nipples, their mouth, their throat, their tongue, their lips, that how to bring it all online. So it's all sending signals to the brain. So you're having way more pleasure and you become more sexually confident, and you don't worry about coming because you come so well. And we don't have time to talk about that now, but if you go to orgasmiccrosstraining.com, there's a like all the tools that I recommend that you slowly use on your vulva to awaken all these different areas. And this morning I read this study a few months, like 2 months ago, and it made no sense to me. And it was about how this woman, or some of the, like these practitioners were trained to spot women who had vaginal orgasms by the way they walked. And I'm like, that is the happiest horseshit I've ever heard in my life. Like, that's not a thing. Like, you people are smoking some serious crack over there. Like, what are you even doing? First of all, that's so judgmental. That's so weird. That's like really strange. Don't even look at me. Like, how is this the weirdest thing? But then I haven't forgotten that. And I want to revisit, and I want to like call them up and be like, what in the actual are you doing over there? But I was walking out of the gym today, and I was an absolutely Barbie barbarian in the gym today. I was like heavier weight and heavier weight. And I work out pretty much every day. And I love weights, and I love gym work, and I love the strength, and I love my biceps and my quads and my sweet little ass that I had for the first time in my life at 62. I had a flat butt my whole life. Now I've got a booty. Mama got some back. So I've been very excited about all that. And I was walking out and I was feeling particularly barbarian-esque. And I noticed that I was walking more of like totally grounded in my body, and just like really like chewing up the earth with my gait. And that reminded me of that way, that study about how these women could tell you if a woman had vaginal orgasms from intercourse or not by their gait. And I thought, well, maybe there is something to it, because working out really grounds you in a way that you don't get in almost any other thing. Like when you are lifting heavy weight and you're pushing a lot of testosterone in your body. The other thing is that I take exogenous testosterone, and I put it every morning in shea butter on my clitoral structure and my labia, because number one, it helps with libido. My libido is high anyway because I have a lot of great sex. But number two, it also keeps all those structures very meaty, because as you age, you desiccate, you dry up, you wrinkle up. And so your vulva starts to kind of like atrophy. And so I use it as an anti-atrophy, but I also use it because it gives me balls. I have this, more confidence, more, shit doesn't upset me like it would when I didn't have as much testosterone. And it makes my voice lower, which I also like. And I've been following a lot of trans people, trans women, on Threads. I like Threads right now. I'm enjoying it. It's like the new Twitter for people who are more progressive. It's like the progressive kind, what Twitter used to be. And so I follow a lot of trans women, and they're doing a lot of hormone therapy and deepening their voices and things like that. And I think to myself, well, I think all women would probably enjoy having more confidence, having more libido, building muscle faster, having the like this gait in their step of confidence. That's how men they wake up in the morning having that as their default reality.
Yeah.
And we have to lift a lot of weight and take testosterone to feel that. I can tell you that the difference between being on testosterone and not, I would not go off it. I love the
Wow.
power, the strong voice,
Yeah.
the muscle building, the gait, I like to chew it up. At the same time, when I'm in the bedroom, I think one of the most fun things, I always like to joke about, if I had an epitaph, what they write on your gravestone. Mine would probably be, she had a lot to say. But I would always really like one where if you could spin it around, like you'd spin it and there'd be another one, it would be like, she was fun to fuck. And the reason that I think I'm fun to fuck is because I have a lot of non-negotiables about my sexuality. One of them is I won't continue to do anything that is not immediately in the moment giving me pleasure. I'll just be like, okay, I'm done. We need to take a break. So I don't owe anybody an ejaculation. I don't owe anybody anything. I don't owe anybody anything, number one. And number two, I will give myself as much time as my body takes, which is all women's bodies. We all take 20 or 30 minutes to get into relaxation, to get out of our heads and into our body, to let our vagina get lubricated, to, get into turn on, to begin to climb the arousal ladder. And I just sometimes have to say to myself, girl, just be patient with yourself. She'll get there. And so I think that the reason that I'm fun in bed is that I think of a lot of things, and you could, like, oh, today I think I want to do this thing. And, oh, you know what I'm in the mood for now? And you think, well, isn't that like bossing? Isn't that like being bossy? Like, why, that's like aggressive, you're saying what you want. But in reality, what I've found, because most of my partners are male, I have girlfriends too sometimes, but I am primarily heterosexual, I would say, primarily. And I think that one of the reasons that people enjoy having sex with me is because I'm full of fun ideas. And so I think there's a difference between being bossy. I mean, who came up with that? A man. No, it's not bossy. It's full of fun ideas. I've got some ideas. I've got things to say. Let's try this stuff. Hey, here, let me throw this out. And if you've got a better idea, let's go with yours. But usually they don't have as good of an idea as I do. And so I just think the more that we women step into our 110% power, our desires, our non-negotiables, our fun and adventurous constructs, our brainstorming, our everything, the more that we are just incredible women. And there are partners out there who want that. They love that. Being with anything but that would be so boring.
Yeah.
So you have to go back to, I've got to find somebody who is confident enough. That was another thing that I really liked about my husband. He was quietly confident. Find somebody who's intelligent, confident, kind, and supportive of you. And then you've got a good person. And maybe that person wasn't raised to be like that, but there are many things you like about them, and they're willing to meet your relationship values. And if they are, and they understand that those are things that are important to you, and then they deliver on it, if they can't guess that, but they can deliver on it. So I say, be everything you want to be, unabashedly, with no don't say sorry.
Yeah.
Just be you and grow into your wings as much as you can, right?
I freaking love that. And it's so interesting how I can see so many parallels between how I work with women around food, how you're talking
Yeah.
about being so unapologetically, like when you were saying like, oh, like this no longer like is feeling good. So I'm just going to
Right.
stop. I'm not going to be
Yeah.
like, oh, but but maybe he's really enjoying it. So I'm going to keep going. And I think it's the same thing with food. Sometimes,
Yeah.
we get so in our heads around like, oh, but I should be eating this because this is healthier. Like, oh, maybe I'll stop because they're looking at me eating or whatever it is. And before we wrap up, I hope you
Yeah.
don't mind, but I'd love to ask
No,
you
go ahead.
your relationship with food because I'm assuming it's
Yeah.
also super like juicy, present, and in the
Yeah.
moment. Because I would assume that all of this, what you've harnessed in your sexual energy and life also
Yeah.
bleeds into other areas of your life. And did you ever struggle with food, or was that also something that you kind of apply these same principles of just being so embodied?
Yes, I struggled with food.
Mm,
And what's interesting about it is that I had an addiction to white flour and sugar,
mm,
which I think is very, very hard not to in our culture and environment. And I had to go completely gluten free at 50 because I felt like I could barely walk upstairs anymore. I could never get rid of kind of that layer of fat that made me unhappy.
mm,
And it's really interesting. So I was at Burning Man with my boyfriend and my husband, and it was this year. And if you read about it or you attended this desert festival, there was this big rainstorm that lasted a couple of days and flooded the playa. They made it out to me way worse than it was for most of us, though there were people in tents in low-lying areas that needed our support to help them move them into safe places and things. It was funny, like there was this moment where we're like, oh shit, I wonder how long it's going to take us to get out of there. And my boyfriend kind of like shut down. He kind of like, he got stressed. We all got stressed right at the same moment, like, oh, damn, this is a big storm. He checked out. My husband was like, he wanted to have sex. And I was thinking about how long can I make the food last? And you know that fight, flee, feed, fornicate, parasympathetic, sympathetic nervous system
yeah.
response to danger. I literally saw it manifest in 3 different ways with the three of us.
Wow.
My way of calming down is to feed people, not necessarily myself. Like I will eat it too. I like to eat it. I'm a cook. I cook every night. I just cooked myself lunch.
Mm,
My husband just ate leftovers from last night.
mm,
I cook every single night. And then we have lots of food for the rest of our meals. I make a smoothie for us every morning.
mm,
So we have a smoothie, then we eat leftovers, then I make a fresh meal. That's our pattern. And we're not OMADs or intermittent fasters particularly. If
mm,
I do fasting, I'll do the Prolon fasting mimicking diet just because it's an easy 5-day deep fast
yeah,
that, can kind of reset your system.
mm,
But generally, the only kind of sugary thing that I allow myself to have is some wine. I do like wine, and I'm a wine connoisseur. I have a really good palate. I've always enjoyed it. I don't want to give it up. I like it. I know it's not great for me, but I do enjoy it, but I don't drink to excess.
yeah,
And I really like to cook. And the type of thing that I do is we eat meat and fish and chicken and pork and duck and I usually have some kind of animal protein. And then I have one or two vegetables. The vegetables could be potatoes or sweet potatoes. I could have some rice sometimes,
mhm,
but mostly it's veggies. And like I make fresh tomato salsas with olive oil, lemon olive oil, and put them
mm,
on top and things like that. And I just find that to be very, very satisfying. And I don't crave. Sometimes I have ice cream.
mm,
I don't crave a lot of things. I don't have any problems once I stopped eating gluten and sugar.
mm,
And I really have to worry about yeast a lot.
mm,
If I, like over the holidays, if I have one piece of C's candy for 10 days in a row, I realize I'm starting to look for sugar and it triggers in me really easily.
yeah.
So at 62, I have the prettiest body I've ever had in my life.
Well,
So
I haven't seen your entire body, but girl, this woman is, you are glowing
good.
and
Yeah.
tight and
I'm pretty thin. I've got like, yoga pants on. My stomach's pretty thin, not
oh,
too much fat. I've got good muscle, like
oh,
it's solid.
seriously,
I've
you
got a
are just
booty.
rocking it. And I
It's
love how
important.
you have your, we all have our vices too, right? And it's like, you know
Yeah,
what? Wine is important to me. I'm not going to totally take it out of my life and just
exactly.
be a
Yeah.
militant robot, but I'm going to find what works for me and also recognize, you know what? Like I want to feel good and I want to look good and
Yeah,
I'm allowed that as well. Um,
exactly.
I feel like I could speak with you for hours.
I come back.
For the beginners, and I
Yeah.
think I'm fairly beginner in this. I mean, only a few years ago, the things that you are saying right now, I would have been like, oh my God, we're not allowed to talk about that. You know what I mean?
Which
And
ones?
so
What did I say that made you feel like that?
a few things in terms of like, oh, a boyfriend and a husband, or
Yeah.
just even in the way of, it's so interesting. Even if hearing a woman speak about it, and how horrible is this? Even say the word like vulva, like it's a bad word. Like there's a piece of me that still feels like we can't speak about parts. You know what I mean? It's like it makes me feel uncomfortable. But I know that that's like the shadow part of myself that I felt uncomfortable with. Where should we send listeners, me included, in
Yeah.
terms of like where's a good place to start? Because to be honest, you have so
Mhm.
much going on, and there's so
Yeah.
many different
Yeah.
books, all these things. Where would be the best place to kind of be like, okay, I want to learn more about this. I want to dive in. Like,
Yeah.
what's the roadmap we should give people?
I think sexlifebucketlist.com is the best place to start because that's those 48 erotic play dates. And at least half of them you can experience yourself in solo pleasure.
Perfect.
So they don't require a partner. So if you're between partners, if you have a partner, it's really fun because what you get when you go to sexlifebucketlist.com, you get on my sex tips newsletter. You can unsubscribe anytime, but I don't think you'll want to. And the Sex Life Bucket List is a PDF that you can download and you can print it out and then you get a video where I walk you through what all the 48 play dates are because you'll be like, I don't even know what this is. Oh, wow. I never thought of that. And they're all really sweet. And if you have a partner, you can make 2 copies and then by each one of the play dates, there's a little line and you can write an A, a B, or a C. The A is, oh, this is definitely going on my bucket list. An A is, oh, this is definitely going on my bucket list. A B is, it wouldn't go on my bucket list, but if my partner wanted to do it, I would totally be down for doing it. And C's are, it's not for me right now. Never say never because you're going to mature sexually your whole life. And as you gain more skills, more things are going to be interesting to you. And then that gives you your path based on your interests of what you want to learn. And then there's lots and lots of links in there as you go. So you can be like, I don't even know how to start with this. Well, click here and you can find out more about it. It'll be links to articles. It could be links to videos where I explain things more deeply. So I think that is the best thing because then you have kind of a roadmap to follow to try some new things.
I love that. And you know what? I'm currently doing an artist's way morning pages and artist dates every week. So, and I'm doing it with a few other girls. So, I'm going to be doing my artist dates and then now also some,
Who wrote The Artist's Way?
Julia Cameron.
Oh, okay. Okay,
Yeah. And
great.
it's more into like creativity. It's nothing
Yeah.
necessarily to do with sex, although everything is
Oh,
somewhat
sex is creative.
right. I
And it
love you.
fuels your creativity.
That's the thing. I was going to say, I'm like, it doesn't really have anything to do with sex. But then as I was saying it, I'm like, but then again, everything has everything to do with sex. But
It does.
it has been so lovely chatting with you. I will be
It
sure to
has,
link
Kiki.
that in the show notes. And then for
Thank you.
those who want to, hang out with you online,
Yeah.
Instagram, the best place to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah. My name's Susan Bratton on Instagram. That's a good place to start. Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Susan.
Thank
Until soon.
you.